As I've talked a lot on my newsletter and in this YouTube channel, I have this thing where I love to follow the thread of curiosity and see where it takes me. Something I've been thinking about a lot is human innovation. Humans are amazing at the things that they're able to accomplish when they put their minds to things, especially if they work together as a group. Sometimes these things are fantastic, and then obviously you can have the flip side where these things are actually catastrophic. See Exhibit A, Hitler, Stalin, all of those horrible, terrible people. But there's a particularly interesting period in history that resulted in some really unique pieces of human innovation. Rewind the clock to the Cold War. So you essentially had the Western and Allied powers against the Soviet Union and the Soviet bloc. So during the Cold War, America had real incentive to try to stay ahead of the Soviet Union by taking on some totally absurd challenges as a way to kind of flex on the Soviets. And some of the stuff they did is really awesome, like landing a man on the moon and inventing internet and personal computers and the SR-71 Blackbird and some really interesting engineering that happened. There were some other things that were not so great, such as, multiple computer glitches during the Cold War that if someone would have actually done what they said and pushed the button, it would have launched some nukes at the enemy. That would have been bad. Good thing that didn't happen, because we're still here. That's a topic for another video, which is basically the multiple times that we were this close to World War III, and fortunately for us, that didn't happen. So I went down the rabbit hole on the X-15 rocket plane, which is a perfect example of Cold War innovation, where you had these really high stakes, and so it resulted in some absolutely astounding engineering. This thing looks like something out of science fiction.
September 17th, 1959 is a historic date. Early on this Thursday morning, the B-52 carrier takes the X-15 out for its maiden powered flight.
Just look at this thing. This is literally a rocket engine with wings, and a dude would sit in the cockpit, and they would launch this thing up into the stratosphere.
Launch.
And it's just like unreal that they were able to do this in the 1950s and 60s. That's a really long time ago, just for the record. That's, 60 years ago. And what's really incredible is that they're designing and building these things with extremely rudimentary technology compared to what we have today. It's not like you had 3D CAD engineering. You didn't have fancy server farms to run renders on. This is like pen and paper with a ruler, old school style engineering. And they built this amazing machine that to this day has not been matched. So it literally used a rocket engine to blast it and its pilot up to the edge of space. So the pilots wore full-on astronaut suits. In fact, NASA actually awarded afterwards some of these guys as officially astronauts. That's how high of altitude they went to. They were so high they would experience weightlessness. They would see the edge of space, the blackness of space. And keep in mind, this is years before America launches its first man into space. The X-15 set speed and altitude records in the 1960s, which have still not been broken by another aircraft today. Again, that's just really hard for me to get my head around. 60 years ago, they were able to do something this incredible that we still have not been able to match. If you want to be inspired by man's capability to build amazing things, just go down the rabbit hole on this plane. There's all kinds of stuff on the internet, and it's fascinating. So where am I going with all this? Well, over the last century, it is undeniable that for the majority of mankind, life has gotten a lot better, especially if you compare it to any other time in history. And this is really simple, like life expectancy and child mortality rates and, access to medical care and all kinds of things like that we just take for granted that weren't really around 100 years or further back than that. This has led to a bit of a movement by the likes of these guys. Let's see. So we've got Steven Pinker and Matt Ridley and Hans Rosling. So these guys would essentially extrapolate that trend into the future to say things are going to keep getting better and better and better, and mankind, because remember, human ingenuity is so incredible, we will be able to take on any remaining problems that there are and overcome them. And to be fair, there is some truth to that. Just a brief look at how much medical has progressed in the last 100 years, and you say, wow, mankind has taken on some challenges and overcome them, and that's exciting, and that's really good because we're not all dying from smallpox anymore. That's huge. Humans, when we put our minds to things, are able to accomplish things that are almost unbelievable. Try landing a man on the moon. That's really hard. If you were to teleport someone from the Dark Ages to our present time right now, they would think they're seeing a hallucination. It's just too good. We have air conditioning and refrigeration and all these amazing things that humans have invented, and that is a positive thing. So these guys would call themselves rational optimists. But I want to balance this out. We've talked about innovation and incredible things that humans have done, but I would argue that the optimism by these guys, and I'm particularly thinking Steven Pinker when I say this, I see it as pretty naive. And that's because, yes, humans have done some things that have made the world better for all of us, and that's wonderful, but that is naive to say it's all good. Humans are also really quite capable of incredible harm and evil, and that is the balance that we need to be weighing here. When we think of human innovation and capabilities, yes, we've made some strides that have been really incredible, but we've also made strides that have made it so much easier for mankind to destroy the entire world. The point simply is humans are humans. We have incredible potential for good and for doing amazing things that don't seem possible. Again, the X-15 rocket plane, how is that even possible? But we also have incredible capabilities for doing evil, and this is something we dare not forget. Yes, we've seen great innovation in the last 100 years, but we also saw exponential rise in evil things as well, genocide, war, and so forth. We have all been given incredible opportunities and incredible possibilities for our lives, but we have also invented the tools to make evil so much easier. It is so much simpler to destroy ourselves now than it's ever been. And I don't mean just physical destruction, a simple glance at, say, the dark web or something, and there's all kinds of horrors and evils there that will just blacken your soul if you're exposed to it for too long. So yes, while I do disagree with a lot of the philosophical premises or some things, and I would say this is a bit simplistic and naive from these books, at the same time, particularly this book, Factfulness by Hans Rosling, has been hugely helpful to me, and actually, I should do a deep dive on this book. This thing is amazing in that it really helped me step back and think about how do I process data and how do I think about the world and trends and things like that. Even though I would say let's balance these things by saying it's not just a positive trend we can extrapolate out into the future, but that there is also potential here for a lot of evil as well. We have so much to be grateful for. We also have so much that we are responsible for. We carry the weight of knowing that what we do now, today, will ripple into the future for generations to come. And we dare not forget that responsibility or to take it lightly. We best be wise and not naive about our responsibility. Thanks for watching. We took just the slimmest of glances at this incredibly interesting and rich topic on human capabilities and both the good and the bad, and I'd love to spend some more time with this. So if you have thoughts, put them down in the comments below. I'd love to read them, and maybe we'll do a follow-up video on this. If you found this interesting, you should check out my newsletter, where I often write about topics like this and other things that I'm curious about.